Kayla again, and today we're going to be talking about coping mechanisms for parents who do not have their children full time. So that could be someone who has limited access to their child. It could be somebody who has gone through a divorce or a separation, who is now dealing with the fact that their child is with their spouse half the time and now with them half the time, because I think that when we have a child, especially as women, I can only speak for myself really, but I believe that we don't intend that that child is ever going to be separated from us until they're much older. In today's day and age, much older, could be 30 years old, that they're still living in our basements because it's so expensive to get rent. At the same time, hopefully that's not my case, but what do you do when you are at home? You have COVID not have COVID, but you have COVID as an issue outside. It is minus 21 degrees. Let's say you live in Ontario like I do. Your Great Dane's not going to go for a walk with you in that kind of weather. You need to get sunlight. You need to get nature. You need to do something. What do you do to cope with the fact that you don't have your child and you're literally sitting at home for hours on end, possibly doing nothing and trying not to get depressed over it, and you feel empty because there's this loss where when you're working, you're busy, your mind's busy, you're creative, you're doing your job. And my job has been affected by the COVID situation in Ontario currently. I work for the school board, and my job is in a kindergarten classroom, and there's no school right now. So my son's at his father's, for instance, this week. And so when he leaves, and I know it's going to be a week, it's the night from hell for me. I try not to let him know. But then what do you do after? The most important thing for me, I've learned, you talk about it. You tell people around you. You develop friendships with other single mothers. A single mother is just an unwed mother. It doesn't mean they don't have a boyfriend, a partner, or a significant other. It's still this loss of your child. I've also experienced the loss of a child through adoption. In a way, it still tugs at my heartstrings. Even though I see her, it's still a difficult thing. So I talk about it. I talk to therapists about it. I've gone through many years of therapy to get where I am today. But anxiety and depression are a major thing for a lot of people right now, based especially on COVID, and it's forcing many of us indoors, many of us to be alone at home while our partners go to work, or if you live alone. So here's some things you can do. So for me, I started doing this before COVID because I was still having these problems. As you can see behind me, it doesn't look gloomy in here. So one of the things you can do is make your space comfortable, make your space homey. It doesn't mean you need to go and purchase thousands of dollars worth of plants. I don't recommend you go and buy bonsai trees that take 10 years to learn how to wire, or this one here over here that's 41 years old. That's not what I'm recommending, but I do recommend you put a little bit of nature into your life. So even something like this snake plant here, easy to keep, doesn't need a lot of light, little things like that. I also encourage things like pictures of your children or your kids or your spouse, or things that make you happy. One of my favorite walls that I always like to show is the wall that I made of sort of some of my accomplishments and my plants and things that just make me happy and it feels peaceful. I also try to hang out in rooms where there's natural sunlight. So for instance, at the front door, there's natural sunlight. And as you can see by these grow lights that are on, this is sunlight as well. That is synthetic, but at the same time, it does help your mood. I also personally use a depression lamp used for seasonal depression. It also does grow my plants, so sometimes I switch it over to a plant light. But it is this massive light. I paid $300 at Northern Lights, but this light has saved my life, along with vitamin D. I also take other supplements that can help with anxiety and depression. Supplements have been key. I'm also type 1 diabetic, as most of us know. I wear a tandem insulin pump that is attached to my body at all times, as well as a Dexcom sensor. So for me, my overall health is super important. So give yourself stuff to do. For example, I've talked about this before, not just the plants for me, but also taking care of all these animals. So I do have a lot of really cool exotic animals that I've learned how to deal with over the years. But like I've learned how to handle since I was very, very young. As I mentioned before, I started working at a parrot farm when I was quite young. And these are the things I'm talking about, like things like this. So this guy is a juvenile panther chameleon morph, and he is one of the things that I take care of. He lives in a habitat that he does not want to go back in. He lives in a habitat that is completely natural. So every single day, believe it or not, this little guy, I have to spray him 4 or 5 times a day, including his enclosure. I have to dust his crickets before feeding him. There's a lot of work that's involved in that. So while you're working on those things, you're not getting depressed. I also did another little thing. I don't drink alcohol. Alcohol is a depressant. I don't drink alcohol. I am a recovered alcoholic, and I just will not have it in the house. So I do have a bar. I have a coffee bar. Here's my coffee maker, my Keurig, and I also have, some really cool teas that I collected, from England, and I cover it in plants, of course, too. So that I have a bar too. It's just different. So once COVID's over, when people are allowed to come over, I have something. And then of course my biggest challenge is things like having really advanced, stage bonsais. Things like that have helped sort of manage, depression and even cravings or things the old habits that sometimes we want to go back to. When COVID sort of hit, I think there was a lot of people that realized that maybe in order to get through the days, they might be drinking a bit too much alcohol, or they might be, coping just by trying to sleep through it, or just being bored of their minds. Try to call people that that are also experiencing this. Reach out to friends that are also home, and even though you might not be able to go and visit them, we have FaceTime, we have videos, we have ways to connect now that we didn't used to have. And I especially appreciate that technology, having a son that FaceTimes me when he wants to. And I think that's key. It's just the connection that you need with other human beings. So reach out, talk, comment below if you have any ideas to add, any comments. Remember, this is a kind, safe space. Please keep the comments positive. And if you would like, you should subscribe, and I will talk to you again soon. Take care.